去治疗。
You know, when they tell me this story, they weren't trying to talk about things in, oh, that's how exciting. It very matter of factly.
他们在讲到这些事情，好像是很平常，不是说是一件有多大的事情似的。
And I was thinking, you know, you and I will send our children, we'll take our family to as safe a place as we can. It can be.
我在想说，我们当父母的，我们都是想把我们的孩子让他去到最安全的地方。
And yet I saw people who go to the places, and this is one of the few things, I'm sure there are many things they encounter, and yet they have that deep sense of peace and joy.
但是他们是去到那样一个地方，但是你看他们真正在那边经历了非常深的平安，跟他们还继续有他们喜乐。
And you can really see that God works in their life through happy times, through difficult times.
也会看到神的手不管是在他们艰难的时刻，还是或在他们快乐的时刻都在。
That keep me thinking is, what kind of God are we serving?
所以我一直在想，我们服侍的是怎样的一位神呢？
Am I securing everything for myself, and then I say to God, oh, it's happy to have you come along, but you know what? I already have everything and have my plan B.
我们信主是不是说我自己都已经什么东西都已经安排好了，都没有顾虑了，然后就是跟神说啊，我真是高兴你现在也可以跟我在一起，我多了一个伙伴似的，我们再有另外一个快乐。
Or can we serve a God that say, trust me, I can take care of things because I have a plan for your life?
还是我们这是这个服侍一位神，他是说你不要担心，你就信靠我，我完全对你有一个完美的计划。
Bethany and Jeremy have been serving for their local people. She will tell you what the whole thing they've been doing. They are helping a group of the community for subsistence farming.
他们在那边帮助当地的人，或者主要是帮助他们这个学习这个耕种。
And then they find that a lot of the children there often go to school hungry, so they started having a school and have a feeding program, and that's some of the things Jimmy tell us. They've been raising fund, library, school building.
他们后来发现说，那边的孩子经常都是这个饿着肚子上学去的，所以他们也决定是说，他们要办学校给这些孩子吃。
It's one of the many things that God has led them to. When you do something well, God will give you more things to do, not less.
这是神在基督徒身上的作为。那有时候要知道，这是你把一件事情做好了，神可能就加给你更多的事让你做。
There are difficulties.
他们也遇见困难的。
But there are blessings.
但是他们受祝福的。
So may I introduce you, our dear sister?
我们现在欢迎我们的姐妹。
No, thank you so much. I'm really, really happy to be with you all tonight.
谢谢大家，我真是非常高兴跟大家在一起今天晚上。
I've been looking forward to this for a very long time.
我已经盼着这一天很久了。
We absolutely loved the team that you all sent us and wish that we could have them back again and again.
真的，我们真的非常的高兴，你们送那个短宣队到我们那边，我真希望他们再回来。
So we have enjoyed so much partnering with Grace Christian, and tonight I want to give you a broader idea of what we do.
我们真是跟这个恩光教会有这段时间，我们觉得非常的高兴。我们今天晚上就要告诉大家更多关于我们的事。
So since I also have the pleasure of speaking with you all tomorrow morning during the service, I'll do 2 different things.
因为我明天早上我还会跟大家分享一些信息，所以我们这一回我就讲2样事情。
Tonight my goal is to give you a lot of information and a lot of details.
今天晚上我也给大家更多的一些这个信息，关于我们那边的信息，还有这很多细节。
And then I think tomorrow morning I'll show you a little bit more of the heart of the ministry.
明天早上我再跟大家讲说，我们做宣教士，我们的心。
But hopefully this can set the stage for all of that.
大家就希望今天晚上的这个就作为明天的这个基础。
Okay. So as Dr. Chan said, we have a wide variety of ministries under Choshen Farm.
就像这个陈医生介绍的是说，我们在那个长生农场那边是有很多的工作。
The central piece of which is the farm itself.
这个最中心的工作就是那个农场本身。
And so we started a farm because 100% of people around us are subsistence farmers.
我们之所以在那边办农场，因为是在我们周围的完全都是这个农民。
So as we come alongside people in their agriculture, we really are coming alongside them in their very life.
所以我们这个一起办农场，我们就可以进入跟他们有同样的共同的语言。
So most people grow maize and cassava.
他们那地方种的东西，玉米树还有 cassava， 我不知道这叫什么。
But increasing that diversity for the sake of nutrition and the good of the soil is very important.
所以我们觉得说，应该这个给他们增加一些品种，让他们的营养会更好。
Showing women in particular ways that they can be involved and really raise their economic standing.
也这个告诉这些那地方的妇女说，他们可以他们应该有更高的地位。
And because agriculture has happened the same way for decades and decades and decades, it requires a lot of training.
因为这个大家都是根据传统以前怎么学来的，怎么种田的，按照习惯在耕种。现在那训练就有很多需要改变的。
So we've been able to introduce ideas that are very simple but also very new.
所以我们就向他们介绍一些虽然是很简单，但是又对他们来说又是很新的一些做法。
Such as fish farming to improve the protein sources in the community.
比如说也养鱼，所以让他们能够增加蛋白质的供应。
Harvesting fish ponds is a very muddy but very satisfying project.
所以这个从鱼塘里面这个捕鱼是要踩在很多泥里面，但是呢又非常的让人满足。
We also focus a lot on soybeans in particular because of their nutritional value.
我们也特别的向他们介绍了种这个大豆，因为这个大豆里面的蛋白质很高。
And so as we're able to distribute tons and tons of soybeans, it starts a new business opportunity for the farmers.
当这个生产的大豆越来越多的时候，他们也就可以把一些这个副业搞起来了。
So as we assist these farmers, it's an opportunity to engage with them in their very life.
所以当我们跟他们一起这个种田的时候，我们也就开始进入了他们的生活。
And while we give a lot of things, it's attached to training so that people can feel self-sufficient in the long run.
所以他因为慢慢的学习的这些技巧以后，他们就开始就觉得能够自立，他们有比较充足的收入。
The relationships that develop during all of those outreaches are very important.
所以这些关系的建立是非常的要紧的，这样才能向他们跟他们做朋友。
Because it's the thing that takes us into people's homes.
因为它让我们才能进到他们的家。
It lets us know them on a very deep friendship level.
也让我们跟他们做了比较深交的朋友。
which even if it's an agriculturally focused program, it is about discipleship.
其实虽然我们是在一起种田呢，其实我们也是在把基督的教导，像当门徒一样，给训练他们。
It took years and years to become trustworthy people in the community.
要这个跟他们变成说互相能够信任，成为他们信任的朋友，也是要经过很多的年月。
But we've been able to communicate to people that because their lives matter, we want the very best for them.
我们之所以能够跟他们这样好的沟通，是因为他们知道我们非常的在乎他们的生命。
And that impacts the way that they trust what we say about Jesus as well.
所以他们也因此就相信我们向他们传的耶稣。
Agriculture is a very slow ministry.
你们知道这个农业是这件事情做起来是很慢的。
It takes time to plant and to weed and to wait.
要种，要除草，要收割什么，经过很长的时间。
In many ways, it's the perfect metaphor for faith and God's interaction with us.
但其中呢，其实也同样的，也就跟我们的信仰的建立其实是有相似。
And so we draw so many sermon illustrations just from the agriculture around us.
所以我们就从这里面就给他们很多的这个教导。
Much of the work is very technical.
很多这个农活都是这都是技术性的。
We get right into details like micronutrients of soil health.
我们也要教他们很多很多这个技术上面的细节，他们微生物环境，还有这个营养。
But also connect all of those things to childhood nutrition and household economics.
这所以也同样也告诉他们，就是说这个孩子的营养，还有这个家庭的经济怎么样计划。
One of the most important projects under agriculture that we've done in the last 5 years has been the livestock reserve.
在过去5年里面，我们这个教给他们的这关于这个家庭经济的时候，就是这个怎么样养家禽。
We discovered that we could distribute seed and help people plant gardens, but the goats and pigs were eating them.
我们可以就给他们给他们很多种子，让他们长起来，但是那边的这个山羊啊，还是其他动物就把它们吃掉。
And so we encouraged all of the farmers to bring all of their animals to one central location so they would stop roaming around.
所以我们就教大家说，你把所有这些牲畜都归到一个地方，所以他们不会到处乱跑，就吃掉庄稼。
So we can also teach about controlled breeding, animal nutrition, and also the marketing of these animals.
我们也教他们就说怎么样说在圈养这些牲畜，也教他们做动物的营养，还有怎么样去做生意。
And so in all of these things, this is the way that we have built our ministry from that point going upward.
所以我们的宣教工作就是从这样的地基上面起来的。
So Zambia is technically a Christian nation.
虽然赞比亚它从理论上就讲他们是一个基督教国家，
But that is very much a political designation.
那其实这个更多是好像是政治上面是这样挂了这么一个名头。
And so while most people are a part of churches, they very much believe in traditional African religion.
就是很多人到教会来的这些人，他们还是相信这个非洲传统的那些宗教。
And according to those traditions, the ancestors are in control of everything.
根据他们的那个传统的宗教，就是说这个是他们的祖宗、他们的祖先，他们现在还在 掌管的所有这一些事情。
So many churches exist, but there is a lot of ministry to be done in those churches themselves.
虽然呢当地是有很多的教会，但是其实也是有很多宣教对这些教会的宣教工作要做。
It was only within the last year that a New Testament was put out in the dialect that we speak.
直到去年才有翻译成我们住的那地方的当地语言的圣经被在出版。
We were a large part of the translation recruitment process because they had a hard time finding people who spoke that dialect as well as English.
我们也就在这上面花了很大的力气，就说这找到人能够明白他们当地的方言，也能够把这圣经翻译过来。
The difficulties in understanding Scripture itself is part of why so much training is really needed.
所以这是因为了让他们能够明白圣经，所以我们也是花了很大的力气。
We do a lot of preaching in churches, basically moving around to all the churches that we work with on a rotating basis.
我们也去到他们很多的教会里面，这个轮流到各个教会去这个做讲道。
That's so that we can have a teaching ministry and also encourage the pastors and the congregants.
我们所以也就是也教导当地的那些牧师，能够让他们明白圣经。
In addition to going out to the churches, we also invite people to our mission base on a regular basis.
除了说就到他们教会去讲道，我们也邀请他们到我们农场那地方，我们有一个专门的给这个训练。
We host Bible trainings, theological trainings, pastoral trainings.
我们在这教导他们这个圣经，也教导也要培养他们的牧师。
And so occasionally we have the benefit of having visiting pastors that come to work with us.
所以我们也经常我们也有那个，就说能够有一些这个牧师从世界各地来访问我们。
I think honestly, when we said we were bringing Pastor Jeff to the church, they were not expecting a young Chinese man.
当我们这个介绍这个Jeff牧师到那边的时候，他这个当地人没有想到说有一个年轻的中国人来当牧师。
But it is so important for people in Zambia to understand that Christianity is not a white religion.
所以但是说很要紧，就是说让他们知道了说这个我们基督教并不是一个白人的宗教。
And also that that the things we're saying are not just our personal opinions. These are the truths of God's word.
我们这个我们教导他们的，并不是说我们个人的感受、我们个人的意见，而是说全世界都是相信同一个道理。
In addition to pastors and congregants, we also have a lot of kids and youth that come out to our site.
除了这些牧师们这些年纪大一点的，我们也有一些年轻的青少年也来过我们农场。
So we're able to minister to the children, also giving them truths that they can carry with them for their lives.
所以我们也能够对孩子们这个传福音这个希望他们一直能够认识这个真理。
We installed a pastor's library recently.
我们最近建立了一个图书馆。
It has grown far beyond this initial stage with commentaries and resource materials.
这是已经比我们原来设想的已经大得多了。这不单单是有一些这个解经的一些书，还有其他的。
Because Zambia is a very oral culture, many Bible stories are familiar.
这个赞比亚那地方，大家都是通过 oral 他们都是口耳相传的哈，他们习惯的口耳相传，所以其实大家都熟悉一些圣经的故事。
But many of those technical elements are things that people have not been exposed to.
但是其他很多这个技术性的东西，人们还是不熟悉。
And so as Jeremy fellowships largely with the pastors,
当当先生的这个跟这些牧师们一起这个有团契相处的时候，
we've been able to identify who is trained, who is untrained, who is a lay pastor.
我们就能认出说有哪一些牧师是已经有能够得到过训练，有些哪些没有得到训练，有哪一些是自己成长出来的。
So that we can tailor training opportunities to what people need.
所以我们就根据不同人的情况，这个训练给他们不同的训练。
Over the years, we've done a very wide variety of trainings.
这些年以后，我们的这个训练了很多各种各样的一些训练。
We've done topical conferences, book studies.
我们也根据一些主题，然后有一些开会
Not about a passage, but the same topic over the course of the whole Bible. Oh, and book studies, like just
还有就是有的是根据主题来学习，有的是根据一本书来学习。
So in all of those things, being able to also put resources in pastors' hands that they can continue to use.
都在训练的当中，我们也是把这些资料就是说送到这些牧师的手里，所以他们可以用。
So that theology is not simply something that was heard once and then was spoken and heard, but it's something that is studied.
所以他们的这个神学不再是说那谁告诉了我就这样再传下去，而是说他们实实在在的是根据这个书本上面的教导。
The largest conference that we've done so far was a national women's conference.
我们这个开过最大的会，就是说一个全国性的这个妇女大会。
We managed to host over 600 women at the same time.
我们那时候就有600个人同时来开会，
which probably stretched the limits of our facilities.
那大概就是我们那边能够容纳的人的极限了。
But it was a reminder that God can do things even with fish and loaves.
所以我们在让我们知道说是我们的神其实不可以做的事情很多，不只是我能够这个捕鱼或者是做面包。
Our desire is to see the depth of the churches go deeper and deeper.
我们在盼望的是说，那个他们的信仰会这个扎根的越来越深。
So that the marker of a churches would not just be the size of the congregation, but the depth of their devotion to Christ.
所以这教会成功的标记不再是说人数的多少，而是说他们信仰的深浅。
There are many faithful leaders within our community.
在我们这个那地方就有一些非常的这个真诚的相信的一些人。
And so we count them partners in the gospel in the places where God has put them.
所以我们知道这是把他们认为是我们在属灵上面的伙伴，但神已经帮他们放在这里。
With each new believer that is baptized, we know that God is continuing to grow His church.
他们随着这个不但有人这个受洗，那么在这神也让他这个教会就在增长。
Okay. So another one of our core ministries is the health outreaches.
另外我们一个主要的一个工作呢，就是说这个就是健康上面的这个宣教。
Most people who come to me have already been to the witch doctor at least once.
很多人来找我的时候，他们都至少都看过一次巫医。
because they're looking for some kind of relief from whatever they're suffering from.
他们受苦的时候，他们痛苦的时候，他们就想不管什么样的，只要能够给他们这个带来一点缓解，那么就好。
And so the medical side of things is an opportunity to meet people's very real needs.
所以这个在医学上面的帮助，就是我们能够直接的帮助人需要的。
And also just to communicate how much God cares for them.
也可以跟人家讲说，神有多么的在乎他们。
You should also know these people, I think.
你们应该认识这两个人。
To you, praying for someone who is sick seems obvious and like second nature.
对我们来说，为一个人一个生病的弟兄姐妹祷告，好像就是非常自然的。
But for people who are so convinced that the ancestors are the mediator between them and God, talking to God is not familiar.
但是对他们那些说相信他们的祖先，就是在他们跟神之间这掌管的事情的时候，让他们直接跟神讲话，那是很不容易的。
And so for someone to come and pray with a patient and come before the Father with them is deeply meaningful.
所以当说我们直接来把一个病人为他们祷告，也跟尤其在父亲一起来，一起祷告，这是一个非常不寻常的一个经历。
I think Dr. Chan can testify that the medical facilities are very, very small.
这个陈医生应该也看到了，说我们那个医疗的设备是那个设施是很小。
And so the role that we play is trying to fill in as many of those gaps as we can.
我们就是尽可能的是说，他们有需要，我们能够提供点帮助。
I am very aware of God's grace on my life for the things that I'm allowed to do in this realm.
我非常的感谢神给我的恩典，所以我能够做一点事情。
Because I have not been trained as a doctor or as a nurse, but this is where I find myself.
我虽然从来没有受过训练，说到当医生或当一个护士，但是这是神给我的恩典，我能做一些。
And so, for better or for worse, the actual clinic with nurses sends certain people directly to me.
所以他们有一些这个一些护理的一些机构会直接的送一些人给我。
So I specialize in wounds and burns.
所以我就专门的给这个他们护理伤口，还有就是烧伤。
I do a lot with fungal infections.
我也处理很多就是说真菌感染。
Most things having to do with maternal and child health.
很多这个是跟这个妇女生产还有这个儿童健康有关系。
And again, those are opportunities to enter into people's homes.
但同样的，这也是一些机会，让我们能够进到人家的家里。
And to bring the message of Jesus into those homes with me.
同样的，把神的信息，把福音带到他们的家里。
We firmly believe that there is great power in being the actual hands and feet of Jesus.
我们这真的是非常的相信说，这个神的大能就是在
the hands and feet of Jesus. Hand and feet of.
我们相信这个是耶稣他的手，他的脚，他的大能。
So that God is not something that is very far away, but is truly Emmanuel, God with us.
但是神并不是高高在上，是真正的是一个很在乎我们的跟我们同在的神。
So thus far we have agriculture, pastors, health, and now education.
我们已经有说有农业，有这个 有这个对这个传道人的训练，还有这个健康宣教，现在就是儿童教育。
Fimpulu Christian School ministers to 400 students from our area.
我们包括的说，我们的那地方有400个学生。
I should say we minister to 400 families because truly it's the students and everyone in their household.
因为我应该说是我们其实是对400个家庭在做宣教，因为不单单是孩子，他们的家长也是我们的宣教的对象。
We started the school because we saw that the government school in our region was way over capacity.
我们之所以说要办这个学校，因为这政府的学校是真的是太满了。
And we wanted to lessen that burden, but also provide Christian education for our students.
我们想呢，就说减少一点他们学校的负担，但同样其实也是要把这个基督的信仰教给我们的孩子。
We try very hard to take care of the whole child, not just their mind.
我们就是希望说能够对这个孩子全身心的一个照顾，而不只是说他们的心。
So we feed all of the kids lunch every single day.
我们每天都给这些孩子吃午餐。
For many of them, it is their only meal for that day.
对很多孩子来说，那就是他们那一天唯一的一餐。
And even for those who will eat more than one meal, for many it's their only protein.
但是对那些虽然有的人可以吃不止一餐，但是对他们来说，他们在这地方能够得到蛋白质。
When we interact with the families, we try to help them understand their children's development.
我们这个帮助他们家庭的时候，也是帮助他们知道说孩子成长需要什么。
Showing the parents how kids learn and what they need at home to be safe and secure.
这也告诉这些孩子他们怎么样学习，要怎么样提供给孩子一个安全的环境。
I know that your church sent a number of boxes of books, and I want to say thank you so much for all of those.
我知道这个恩光教会曾经送给我们这个好几箱的书，我要谢谢大家。
The library is the only place to find books for hundreds of miles.
这个我们的图书馆可能就是孩子在方圆几百里的地方能够找到书的地方。
Because not one of our students has even one book in their home.
有很多的孩子在他们家里连一本书都没有。
And so while English is the official language of Zambia, none of the students speak English before coming to school.
虽然这个赞比亚那边的官方语言是英文，但是没有一个孩子他们在到学校之前会讲英语。
So access to books is very important for their literacy.
所以如果有书对他们来说，这非常要紧，让他们能够识字。
It's also an important way to expand their worldview so that the village is not the only thing that they know.
他其实也同时就张开他们的眼界，就是知道说这个他们所居住的地方并不是世界的全部。
The school is also a ministry to the 23 teachers that are on my staff.
我们的学校也同样也是对这个在学校里面工作的23位教师也是一个宣教。
We spend a lot of time emphasizing that school is how young children come to know what God is like.
我们一直在强调说这个学校就是孩子他们的成长能够认识这个神的地方。
As we teach them Bible stories, as we encourage them in the fruits of the Spirit, these are what they're learning.
我们也教给他们这个圣经的故事，也让他们这个得到这个圣灵的果子。
During COVID, we had to take school out into the community.
这个在这几年的疫病大流行的时候，我们必须这个送教上门。
Since we have no electricity, we have no internet, we have no Zoom.
因为我们没有电，我们没有这个互联网。
So under the mango tree became our new little pods of learning.
所以就是在这个芒果树下，这是我们一个学习的小组。
And I feel like that initiative made sure that our kids did not fall behind.
我们的想法就是不要让孩子这个在上面耽误了他们学业。
They are constantly turning heads when other people notice how advanced these children are.
当这个人们注意到说这些孩子怎么样有进步的时候，那人家都会回头。
We're constantly thinking about how to encourage them academically, spiritually, and socially.
所以我们就在心里面就是说，要让他们不单单是在学业上进步，也让他们在这个彼此的关系上面，还有他们的灵性上面都有进步。
We want to create a nurturing environment where children can become the people God made them to be.
我们希望就是这个培养这些孩子，这个成为这个神要他们长大的样子。
Our education is still very different than what you would be used to, but it is meeting these kids' needs.
我们教育的方法当然是跟我们大家很熟悉的这一套是很不一样的，但是我们就是尽量的是为了这些孩子的需要设计的。
The parents are so proud of their students and what they're accomplishing.
这个他们的这些父母都非常的这个自豪，说他们的孩子有这个达到这样的一些教育。
So right now we have 9 classes from nursery school up to 6th grade.
我们现在这时候有9个班级，是从这个像小孩到6年级。
But we are all prayerful and waiting to see who these children become in life.
所以我们一直祷告，就是说想看神在这些孩子们身上所做的事情，将来他们将会成为什么样的人。
We're always trying to bring new methods, creativity, and engagement to the classes.
我们也试着用各种各样的新的办法，就是让孩子更加有创意，他们也让他们更加的是跟我们有好的互动。
Because the students they pay a very small contribution to come.
我们让孩子对他们所需要这个缴的费用是非常非常的小。
We do rely on sponsorship of the students to feed them, buy all of their books, and pay the teachers.
我们这是靠着大家的支持，所以他们可以买书，也可以就是我们也可以这个雇老师。
So most of our students are currently unsponsored.
但是现在我们的大多数的孩子还是没有得到资助。
So if you would be interested in sponsoring, there are cards with student faces over on that table.
如果大家这个心里有感动，他说要支持哪一个孩子的话，那些孩子的那些照片都摆在那个桌子上。
So in addition to those core ministries,
除了我们说是讲到的这个4个主要的这4个方面的这个宣教，
there are also some other random things that we do, and I'll just run through those quickly.
我们也有一些其他事情，我就快的讲一下。
We spend a lot of time with teenagers working through life skills and goal planning.
我们也要帮助那些青少年，说在这个让他们学一些这个生活的技巧，还有这个怎么样安排人生。
We installed water systems throughout the community.
我们也是在那社区那周围，就是说这个建立了这个自来水的一个系统。
And I include this family because they were the ones that pushed us in that direction. I include this family because they were the ones that pushed us in that direction.
我这个介绍这一家是因为就是因着这一家，这个我们被这个去选择了做这些事情。
That little girl was a twin whose twin sister died of diarrheal disease.
这个
The small one's twin sister died.
就是那手上那个孩子，他的双胞胎的那个妹妹，就是因为死于腹泻。
And so we said we do not want children to die of waterborne diseases anymore.
所以我们就说，我们这不能再让就是说，因为这个水不干净而传染的疾病再次夺去我们孩子的生命。
So throughout the community, we put in a number of solar water pumps.
所以我们在这个社区那地方就装了一些就是这个太阳能的这个水泵。
And then that water gravity feeds to taps outside of homes.
所以这些水就流到这个各家门口的那个水龙头。
We also have a lot of interaction with the traditional leadership, including the chief.
我们也这个跟当地的那些头人有一些交往。
And so every time we have a program, we invite the chief so that he can see our heart for the community.
所以每次我们要开展什么新的工作的时候，我们都会把这些头人请来，让他们知道说我们将要我们的心是什么样。
As the most influential traditional leader, we pray for the chief all the time that his heart would be redeemed.
所以我们知道他们在当地有很大的影响，所以我们也是一直为这些人这个祷告，就希望说他们的心、他们的灵魂也是会被神救赎。
We have developed the farm as a place not just of agriculture and pastoral training.
我们我们的长生农场不只是说这个，不只是耕种，也不只是说培养一些牧师。
We also include outdoor activities for kids and for youth groups.
我们也让这些孩子跟这个青少年有一些这个户外的一些活动。
Because when teenagers are bored, the only thing to do is to drink bad beer.
这就是因为那些青少年，当他们觉得无聊的时候，他们就是去喝很不好的啤酒。
And so we've created a variety of fellowship opportunities as well so that young adults can come together.
所以我们就组织了很多这个青少年的团契，说这些年轻人可以就聚在一起。
Also, a large part of our budget goes towards benevolence, towards orphans and widows.
我们呢这个得到的这个赞助的很大的一部分也去支持那个这个寡妇和孤儿。
We have built a number of houses for people that have needed it and provided food in cases of emergency.
我们已经建了一些房子给他们，也有时候也当这个紧急的时候也提供他们一些食物。
In our community, it's perfectly normal to hand someone a live chicken.
在我们的地方是非常正常的，如果你说送给人家一只活鸡。
For the younger kids, sports are very important to keep them busy.
对这个小孩那个，如果给他们一些运动，那么他们就可以很忙。
The last time I was in America and left Jeremy in Zambia, he built a 6-meter tall cement slide. So I have no idea what I will go back and find this time.
我上一回这个回美国的时候，这个我先生就造了一个6米高的这个水泥的滑梯，我回去我都非常的惊讶。
The slide is definitely everybody's favorite thing at the farm.
这是大家孩子最喜欢的地方。
We've also begun a lot of outreach to children who are disabled in our area.
我们也向那些残疾的孩子宣教。
We discovered that many of these children had been hidden away.
我们看那个他说在当地，他们把这些残疾的孩子都藏在一个什么地方去。
And so we started reaching out to the mothers in particular.
我们就特别的就是说找到了他们的妈妈。
Many of the fathers left when they discovered that their child was not what they had thought.
当他们看见孩子生出来不正常的时候，那些当父亲的竟然就离开了。
And so it's a very difficult life for most of these women.
对这些妈妈来说，这个日子就变得非常的艰难。
Most of the children that we work with have cerebral palsy.
这个我很多是比如是脑瘫。
Others have hydrocephalus and other complicated medical conditions.
还有这个是脑水肿，还或者其他的一些很严重的后遗症。
But we have tried very hard to remind the mothers that their children are fearfully and wonderfully made.
我们就跟这些妈妈说，这些孩子他们的创造也是非常奇妙的，也是非常宝贵的。
And that we do not hide them, we bless them.
所以我们不要把他们藏起来，我们应该祝福他们。
We've been able to bring in several wheelchairs, not as many as we need, but some.
我们就试着说去找到一些轮椅，虽然还很不够。
There was one little boy that we found a chair for, and when I asked, where do you want to go first, now that you can move around, his answer was, I want to go to church.
有一个孩子，我们给他一个轮椅，然后就想说，你现在你可以动了，那你最想去哪里？他说他最想去教会。
He was more verbal. Many of the children are nonverbal and will have very short lives.
他这还是一个会说话的孩子，很多孩子他们话也不能说，而且这个生命非常的短。
But we want to bless them and bless their families as long as we can.
但是我们就是尽量的希望能够给他们带来祝福，也祝福他们的家。
We also have a small shop so that people do not have to ride a bicycle 18 miles to buy a packet of salt.
我们也有办了一个小的一个小店，所以人们就说不需要骑着自行车骑几十公里，就是买一袋盐。
We facilitate a special outreach to school-aged girls.
我们也有一个特别的项目，就是说对那些适龄的女孩，专门是找这些适龄的女孩。
We distribute kits to teenage girls that contain reusable feminine hygiene products.
就是教导他们怎么样使用这些卫生巾或者这些应该是月经方面相关的一些用品。
This also comes with materials to help the girls know themselves, prevent pregnancy, and understand that they are special.
也教导这些孩子说怎么样
to know themselves, prevent pregnancy.
就是让这些女孩子也知道女性的生理，不怎么样才不会怀孕，避免怀孕。
As girls begin maturing, many of them stop school altogether because the logistics are too difficult.
因为这些女孩子到稍微成熟一点，她们很快就辍学了，因为这个环境真的非常的恶劣。
So an outreach like this is meant to keep girls in school and delay marriage.
所以我们的 这个特别的项目，就是希望就是说让这些女孩子能够继续在学校里面学习，不要那么早结婚。
Unfortunately, the maternal death rate in Zambia is quite high.
但是这个在这个赞比亚这个地方，就是说这个在生产过程死掉的这个女的是这个比率很高。
In the last year, we took in 4 different babies whose mothers died in childbirth.
但去年我们就有4个孩子，他们的这个母亲就是在生产过程死掉了。
And we kept them for a few months until the family could figure out who would care for the infant.
我们就这些孩子都带了他们好几个月，都直到那个家庭他们这个找到一个安排好这个孩子，有人能来到抚养这些孩子。
And because baby formula is too expensive for everyone, that is something that we take care of for the families.
婴儿奶粉在当地算起来是太奢侈，我们这个没办法提供。
Our goal with all of these special outreaches is to build community.
我们的这个目标是说，这个能够建立一个互助的一个群体。
We want to very organically speak into people's lives.
我们希望说，我们能够这个非常有效的教导人们怎么样生活。
Jeremy and I are asked to speak on the topic of marriage a lot.
我先生和我就经常都被人家请去说讲这个婚姻的事。
Not because our marriage is perfect, but I think they feel that Americans are less shy.
不是说我们的婚姻是那么的完美，而是说他们觉得这个美国人比较不会那么害羞，不好开口。
Our house is always open and always full of people.
我们家总归是开放的，而且总是有人在我们那边。
And so we trust that our 15 years in Zambia is bearing fruit and it will continue to bear fruit.
我们相信说，我们在赞比亚这15年，它也开始有这个结出果子，也会继续的结果子。
So God has definitely allowed us to do a lot of things.
神真的给了我们机会做很多的事情。
It has not happened all at once. It has been built over time.
并不是一天里面成就的，而是在很长的这段时间呢，慢慢的建立起来。
Jeremy and I are the directors of the ministry.
我先生和我，我们是这个宣教工作的这个主任。
And we have 1 American volunteer.
我们有一个从美国去的一个志愿者。
But we have 65 Zambian workers that run the ministry alongside of us.
但是在我们那边有65个赞比亚当地的人跟我们也一起这个做这些事工。
So our goal is to continue to build that local leadership so that the community takes more ownership.
所以我们这时候是希望说，我们来领导，那是当地的社区，他们慢慢的他们能够承担越来越多的责任工作。
So that people can continue to be reached for Christ for centuries to come.
我们想说人们呢，因此而能够这个不断的去认识主耶稣，即使过了几个世纪，还是继续。
So that covers all of the things that Choshen Farm is doing.
我说的就是这是我们这个长生农场所做的这一些事情。
And that's what I wanted to share with you for tonight.
这就是我今天晚上要跟大家分享的。
I'm happy to do Q&A if that's what you would like to do.
我很愿意回答大家的问题，如果大家有问题的话。
Otherwise, I can let Dr. Chan do whatever he would like.
过后我们再请陈医生过来，我们谢谢 Bethany。
Oh, thank you.
大家如果有问题可以提。
Yes.
就说这个陈医生的问题就是说，除了祷告以外，你还希望我们能够做什么？你现在最想要我们帮助的是什么？
We are praying that all of the students at Fimpulu Christian School will be sponsored before I leave the U.S.
我们这个说特别祷告的是说，这个我们学校的学生，在我回去之前都能找到这个支持他们的人。
I would love for another team from Grace Christian to come work with us.
也希望这个恩光教会有另外一个团队去到我们那地方跟我们一起工作。
There are so many opportunities in teaching, working with pastors, working with youth.
有很多这个教育或者跟他当地的这个牧师一起同工，或者说跟教育这些年轻人的工作。
We would like to establish some facilities for sports for the students.
我们也希望说这个有一些这个运动方面的一些设施能够让它更加丰富。
And actually, the population of Chinese not in our village, but in the broader district, is growing all the time.
这中国人在那地方不是在我们那个地方，那是在赞比亚那块地方有越来越多中国人在那边。
And honestly, we would like to see some seminars for Zambian pastors on how to effectively reach out to recent Chinese immigrants to Zambia.
我们也希望说有一些学习班能够训练我们这个赞比亚的那些牧师，他们怎么样向到那边的那个中国人传福音。
Right now, there is a language barrier and a cultural barrier that Jeremy and I are not equipped to breach.
现在我跟我先生和我们就是说在语言上面都是没办法向那些中国人传福音。
And so, if we could have some people with a heart for Chinese miners and business owners, we would love that.
如果有谁心里有负担，愿意去到像那边他们中国的商人或者他们在那边开矿的一些人在传福音，我们就非常欢迎。
So I think beyond that, because I am here for fundraising, prayer for all of those financial needs to be met as well.
因为我这回来美国的也是希望来筹款，所以也请大家为我们我们的目标能够达成呢，做来祷告。
Any other questions?
还有问题吗？
Yeah.
Has the new vehicle have you received funding for the new vehicle yet?
Yes, part of the reason why I needed to do fundraising was because all of our year-end funding went towards the vehicle. So the need was met, but things that we normally would have covered with year-end funding, now we still need to bring those things in. So the immediate need of the vehicle has been met, and now we're looking towards what else we need in the future.
就是我们大家所知道的，就是他们需要所以一辆车会需要换，像他们当年的筹款的目标已经达到了，那现在他们需要其他方面的资助。
Has any of the Chinese immigrants from the community or nearby community visited your church or farm, and have they have any interest in the Bible or your church?
Part of the challenge is that it's almost like nobody has contact with them. They're very separate, and so even making those initial contacts seems to be very difficult. And when we've asked people who work in their businesses, we've been told they do not speak English, which I'm sure is not entirely true, but I think that's a part of the cultural gap, that Zambia is not very flexible in its own. They have not had a lot of exposure to people outside of Zambia, and so So yes, I don't know if there would be interest. And that's part of why we feel like there needs to be some relational development there and some exploration. Yeah. I need coaching. The seminar is for me. So.
我们姐妹会就问说，在那边这个在那边的中国人有没有人这个跟他们这个联系过？他们就说这是这个他们赞比亚是比较封闭的地方，这个中国人到那边大概不怎么，但不怎么会预期说有这样不是赞比亚的人在那地方，这语言的障碍也是个问题。
Doing your mission work, like how are tribal dynamics out there? Like how's that impact the way you work with the different locals?
Yeah. Tribalism is very strong, but also very peaceful, unlike in other African nations where it's heavy with conflict. It's more just that those identities run very, very deep. And so when we suggest something that goes against a part of the tribal culture, there's immediate pushback because it feels like we're asking them to reconsider who they are, not just their identification, if that makes sense.
Who are the main tribes in out in the?
So we live amongst the Bemba tribe. There's the Lozi, the Nguni, the Tongas, Nyanja. There's 9 major tribes and then a lot of sub-tribes, and then there are clans underneath that. And maintaining that sense of stability and security is really important for people, despite the fact that we're well beyond the age when a warring tribe would come in and wipe them out, and yet people still hold on to the numbers. We need to have a lot of kids to grow our tribe, to become more strong, to become more secure, because those cultural identities feel very necessary, even if in modern day life they probably aren't. That was a lot.
I can only 这位弟兄问的是说他们那边这个部族的情况怎么样啊？他就回答的是说那地方部族很多，但是部族之间的关系没那么紧张，但是大家还是要很认同自己的族群。那么他们那边的文化也是，你不能随便就是说一些东西，这个就反对跟他们那个部族的信仰这个。有冲突，那么他们就会很抵触。
So the question I had was, you mentioned food security is an issue. So how does the government help? And then what also, it's a Christian country technically. What's the government attitude towards missionary?
Okay. So with regard to food security, it's largely a non-governmental organization initiative that really involves a lot of seed distribution. Part of the challenge, though, is that if there's no ongoing training, people will eat the seed instead of plant it or sell it in order to buy other things. And so those very big World Food Program type outreaches are very short-lived and don't provide the structure to really make a big difference. So that's the food security part.
说他们这个人们这个口粮的安全，这个政府这是什么样的态度呢？就是说他们这个口粮的安全其实是一个非政府组织它发起的，那就给人家一些种子，但是呢，因为没有人监督，没有人这个监督执行呢，他们其实人们更经常的是把那种子吃掉，或者把那种子卖掉，再换成别的东西，所以呢这些工作呢变成都是非常的短期的存在，这个效果也是不是很好。
And the government being technically Christian is very happy to have missionaries in its midst. I think sometimes they rely too heavily on the mercy ministries and those benevolence to do things that the government should be doing. So it can become sometimes a when helping hurts kind of situation, and we have to watch out for that. But otherwise, it's not hostile, and we do appreciate that very much.
就是政府，它是一个基督教的国家，那么他们对这个宣教士，他们还是很欢迎的，因为这个宣教士可以帮助他们做很多这个救济的工作。
我想问一下，那些种子种下去，我会还是一代一代的生命，还是种一代还要从
The question is the seed that provided that are they can pass it for next planting, or they just every time you have to provide new seed?
Right. So part of our training program is the mathematics of it. How much needs to be set aside? How much can be eaten? How much should be sold? Otherwise, it just looks like a large bag and the measurements don't pan out. So that's something we help with that the bigger NGOs that distribute don't.
Actually, what in her mind is that there are some seed companies, they provided the seed that can be planted once. Next time you're not going to have.
Yes. So most of the maize seed is hybrid, and it cannot self-propagate. That's an economic issue that benefits them. Yeah. So items that can be planted again and again and again would be soybeans and peanuts in particular. So maize is difficult because it's the staple food, and the fact that people have to buy seed every single year, and it is also not profitable. It's beyond our scope, but we see it, and it's maddening. Yeah. They're just kept in the house. Sometimes the mothers would try to go to church, but then people would say, your child is probably cursed. We don't want that child in here, because anything like that, so many things get connected with witchcraft and with cursing, even when it's not. And so with a lot of these kids, they would just be on a mat on the floor for years and years and years, and not taken outside. So it's that being ostracized. A network grew within the Parents of Disabled Children community. So it's like one mother found the next. They know each other. And so when one of those people contacted us, then we were able to meet all of them very quickly. So.
我们姐妹问的是说，那些这个生下来残疾的孩子，他们是被藏在什么地方？那么这个答案就是说，其实他们就在家里，就有时候就放在地上。他们之所以这样子呢，是他们也不能去这妈妈也不能去教会，因为大家都以为说，因为他们生这样的孩子，是因为这个有被咒诅。所以他们不希望说这个被咒诅很衰的一个女的到他们当中来，但是呢，这些母亲们呢，他们都知道谁家有残疾的孩子，所以他们变成的互相都知道，所以当有一个人来跟这个 Bethany 他们接触的时候，他就变成他们就知道了所有这些人。
How are the curriculums of the school? Is it more based on typical
I would say it's heavily influenced by Western education. The government has its own curriculum. We have modified that heavily to meet the needs of our students in particular and help them cope up with areas that they're particularly behind. Skills training is something that we recognize we need to do because so few of the students will probably, I shouldn't say that. We hope that many of the students go on to colleges and universities, but the reality is that training in things like welding and carpentry, tailoring, bricklaying would be very, very important. That's one of the things where it's only funding dependent that has kept us from doing it already. Otherwise, we do recognize that that's a really important element to introduce for the kids. All of them are local. I would love to, so most of my teachers are individuals that we sponsored through childhood, secondary, and then sent them to Teachers College and they've come back to continue teaching with me. And I love that relational connection. It does mean that we're very limited to what the teachers know according to Zambian teaching structures. And so I would love to have expats come to co-teach and partner alongside as a mentorship and a modeling type program just to expand those ideas and bring some freshness into the classroom. That is one of my prayers as the director of the school.
收容弟兄他这个问的是说，这个那边的给他们的孩子的教育是什么样的？是西方的呢，还是什么样的一种？他就说这个像他们政府也有他们的这个教材跟他们的跟他们的想要的，但是他们就是其实是改了很多，就是为了适应他们的孩子。他们认为就说给这些，虽然这个也很是希望这些孩子们最后能够上大学，能够有更高的教育，但是他们觉得就说其实让他们学习会做泥水匠，或做裁缝，或做一些基本的一些生活的技巧，其实也是更重要。也是根据说他们就说他们得到的资助怎么样？另外一个问题就是说他们的老师，他们就说到底是外面来的呢，还是说他们当地的呢？回答是说这个都是当地的教员。有一些是他曾经他们资助让他们这个读了比较高的，也上的大学，然后就再回来他们这样可以就说把这个当地赞比亚他们的这教育的方法，他们的需要，就说交给这边的孩子。
Yeah, so it's one of those jumps in technology that sort of skipped over. So there were never landlines, and you can have people who are living in a mud hut with a grass roof, but they have a phone. And because they're readily available, and everything is prepaid, and so they'll put 10 cents worth of talk time on there and use it to page people or beep people, and then I call them back. Yeah, they're all over, and so that kind of internet is available. It's both. It's both. Yeah, theoretically.
The reason I was asking, I've met certain companies that do mobile learning. They're acting entrepreneurs in their company. There might be some avenues that might help.
Yeah. So our experience with those is that charging has to be one thing that people can stay on top of. Which more and more things are moving towards very generic chords, and so it's becoming easier. And if with solar panels and solar batteries, those charging stations are also more accessible. So yeah, it's a realm that I think is not, it's probably not out of our reach. I just haven't seen it in our area yet, but that would be very interesting to explore that. Yeah.
我们的弟兄的问到一个，就是他说，哎，那我们在那地方的人有没有手机？我回答是说，很多人都有手机，他们从来没有用过这种普通的电话，但是他们是有手机，但他们就是钱是很有限的，他们只是这个充一下值，这是为了就是对对方送一个短信，然后让对方打过来，有些做跟他们的联系，情况这样。
So when you said sponsoring a child, what does that entail?
So sponsorship is $25 a month, and that allows us to feed the child every single day, pay for all of their books, their school supplies, their pens, their pencils, and also cover all of the teachers' wages as well.
讲到说这个就是说，如果要支持一个孩子，需要怎么样的多少钱？他就说一个孩子一个月要25块钱，这里面就包括说每天会给他们吃一顿午餐，还有包括他们学习用品，也包括这个雇这些老师的钱费用。
It is 25 hectares. The plans for the future of the farm.
Well, John, I see that you do a lot of farming, aquaculture. Okay. Do you have any plans to expand in those areas to produce more products?
Yeah, it's on the table in terms of discussion whether or not we ought to procure more land to make the agriculture our source of local income, or whether we should expand in other areas. Right now, the farm functions at a level that is very suitable for training people. It could be more profitable, but we don't want to be out of reach for the people that we're trying to teach.
That's not your major.
Right.
You want to use that as a means of supporting, training maybe even?
Exactly. But if we were to, I mean, Jeremy would like to have a 200-hectare plot and properly farm it as income. All of the water in the community is because we sunk boreholes, and so we've put in those systems. There is a river, but the diesel cost of pumping it out of the river, given the rise that it needs to get it where it needs to go, is more than using the solar pumps. And they're just far, and also during the dry season, the water table goes down to almost nothing. It depends on the location. So where we have focused the fish farming is areas that have natural springs, and so those springs are a consistent source. So you have to choose the spot very, very carefully. Otherwise, yes, everything would die. But we've been able to identify those natural springs. Yeah.
弟兄在问了一些就比较技术性的一些问题，要问他说这个是他们有农场有多大，另外就是说意思从他们的资金一些需要的资金能不能从当地能够筹备，然后又问了他这个水从哪里来，就是为什么不抽水而是只是打井。
Everything was shut down, but because so much of our life is outside, well ventilated, I would say that our community did not notice it very much at all. In many ways, we watched you all on this side and prayed for you. Yeah, so.
他们说问说在 COVID 有没有在那地方流行哈？那他们说因为他当地因为大家都是很多的户外，这通风很好，所以他们几乎就没有看到有病例在那边。
You were talking about my family came down with malaria, and malaria is a big problem in certain parts of Africa. Or lots of, I guess lots, not correct. But certain countries have done better. And a lot of it's been passing around. It's like the mosquito nets, like is Zambia kind of like still a work in progress, or have they kind of?
Work in progress, yes. I think the CDC does so much malaria research in Zambia because there are so many opportunities to look at it. Yeah, certain regions are more dense than others. It also depends on what kind of residual spraying. So in the cities, they're willing to do a lot of residual spraying, but they don't want to kill all of the agriculture in the rural areas. And so it's that trade-off of what are you going to keep? There have been a lot of net distribution projects. People like to use the nets for all kinds of things other than sleeping under as well. So there's also those education elements. And when any fever is called malaria, it's hard for people to recognize that this fever is deadly, this one you'll get over. And so that's why deaths of children under the age of 5 from malaria are very, very high.
问到那边这个疟疾的事情，就是说这个不是我也有很多蚊帐不是很好吗？或者是说在我们这个美国这个疾病控制中心，他们在那边也做了很多的研究，就是其实也这怎么样就是说杀掉蚊子，但是他也因为这些可能也考虑的这些毒性的问题，所以他也是只是到某种程度。另外就说关于这个蚊帐，就说他们也有人去分发蚊帐，但是人们并不是把蚊帐拿来就说睡觉这个这个让蚊子不要进来，他们还把蚊帐拿去做其他的事情。另外一个当地有很多这个发热的疾病，他们都搞不清楚到底哪一种发烧是疟疾，哪一种不是疟疾，所以这个教育也是个问题。
We are entirely funded by churches and individuals. So at this time, no other major organizations fund us. We truly rely on God's people to make all of these things possible.
那我们弟兄问的问题就是说，那你回来是筹款，但现在是有哪些大的机构支持你们啊？那他们的回答是说，他们都是靠着不同这个教会还有个人给他们的这个赞助，他们并没有其他的大机构来赞助他们。
I would like to have one last question because I would like us to spend more time, look at those pictures and pray to God. So one last question, whoever is the lucky one.
我们最后一个问题，这个最后一个问题问了以后，我们大家就是到那张桌子前面，大家可以看着那些孩子的照片，你心里祷告。Carol。
Oh, that's a good question. She asked, what does the name Choshen mean? Choshen it's a Hebrew noun for the breastplate that the priests wore with the 12 signet stones of the tribes of Israel, signifying that they were set apart for God. So Choshen farm just means that the farm is set apart for God. It's the breastplate that the priests wore.
他说我们 Carol 姐妹她问说，这个他们长生农场这个名字是什么意思啊？他在说长生 Choshen， 它是一个这个希伯来语，就是他们那时候祭司他前面一个胸牌，就是上面刻有这个 12 tribes name， 他们的12个支派的名字都刻在这上面，就是说明他们是这个专门分别为圣给神的。
Don't miss tomorrow. Don't miss tomorrow. We have the heart of the ministry.
好，那我们现在就是大家
Yeah,
可以
let's pray for tonight.
我们现在我们祷告。
Our Heavenly Father, we thank you for this opportunity to have our dear sister here to share her heart.
父神呢，我们谢谢你，我们有这个机会可以听到我们的姐妹在这边跟我们的分享。
You really are a God that does not look down on people.
那你这是不轻看人的神。
You are the one who won't break a broken reed, and you one who blow out an extinguishing flame.
压伤的芦苇，你不折断；这个将残的灯火，你不吹灭。
We pray that we carry what we heard tonight.
神啊，求你帮助我们把今天晚上所听到的信息。
We ponder and pray about what you are speaking to us tonight.
让我们放在心里，我们不断的思想说你给我们的信息。
Give us good rest, and tomorrow we would continue to listen to our dear sister.
让我们今天晚上有好的休息，我们明天还再来听我们姐妹讲。
In Jesus' name we pray.
奉主基督耶稣的名，我们祷告。阿门。
I really want you to spend more time.
大家可以花点时间。